Corepunk, have you heard of this game? Is it worth checking out? Is it worth your time? Stay tuned and find out. What is up, everybody? Swiper here, your MMO junkie. So, I was hanging out, playing some ESO with some friends, and a little game called Corepunk showed up in my Discord from one of my buddies. So, at first glance, I didn't think much of this game, but after a day or two, I decided to check it out and see what this trailer was all about. If you're unfamiliar with Corepunk, a company called Artificial Core is developing this game, and they're calling it a top-down camera fog of war in a seamless open-world MMORPG, or something along those lines. I believe there's going to be a closed beta set for Q4 of this year. Now, this isn't going to be a video about why you should buy this game right away, or that this is the next best MMORPG that is going to change the genre forever. No, this is going to be a video more about the features that this game has to offer, like character customization, PvE, and of course my favorite, PvP, and at the end of this video, I will give you my overall impression of the game. Let's talk about character customization and how in-depth it really can get. First, there are going to be 12 characters that you can choose from. Each character has their own roles, abilities, and fighting styles. As you can see from some of these videos, there are going to be 3 paths that each character can go down. These paths are specific towards each character and will give you a general idea of how these characters are going to play, whether that means they're tank, support, healer, or DPS, or a combination of all of them. It will all depend on what the character has to offer when you select them. Each character will have their own weapon, which will be locked. We now know that weapons are going to have stats on them, whereas your gear is purely cosmetic. So unlike other MMORPGs, gear in this game will not have actual stats. Like I said earlier, each character will have their own set of abilities and skills, but each player will have access to a wide range of talents and artifacts. Just to clarify, talents and artifacts are universal. Every character has access to the same talents and the same artifacts. You can compare this to games like League of Legends and even Elder Scrolls Online. In League of Legends, each character has their own set of abilities, but has the same set of rune choices that every other player out there has. In ESO, each class has their own unique abilities, but once you're level 50, you can spend champion points on passives and other things to increase your character. Now, every class or every player has the same access once they hit level 50. So, as you can see, talents are going to work pretty similar. There's going to be a ton of talents, and also there are going to be a ton of artifacts. So each player is going to have access to every single one. Now, from some of these videos, I noticed that when it comes to talents, you can pick 3 total trees at once. I don't know how it's really going to work overall, but it sounds like you're limited to picking 3 while customizing your character. So if you think about everything we just talked about, how you can go down 3 different paths, how you have options of artifacts and talents, it sounds like you can really customize your character into whatever you want. But if you look at the UI closely, you can see that you could only select 6 abilities on your action bar, and it looks like there's 8 slots for your artifacts. So I imagine you're going to have a lot of choices, but you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And to be quite honest, I like this philosophy because some games that need you to learn 20 or 30 spells for a character can be a bit overwhelming and kind of annoying at times. Let's talk about PvE and what you can do in this world. We know that the party size is going to be 4, so I imagine the Holy Trinity will be pretty important. Corepunk is going to have your traditional questing system. You know, talk to an NPC, go ahead and do something for them, they give you something back. You know, the normal questing that you're used to. You'll also be able to participate in dungeons and randomly generated dungeons that scale to your level or your party's level. You'll also encounter world bosses, have to fight boss mechanics, solve puzzles, and you'll even run into a group of mobs that actually stick together that maybe will have a healer and a tank and a DPS, and that healer is going to heal effectively. We also know that there's going to be gathering, crafting, and creating your own farm. And there's going to be a wide variety of professions, including a hitman profession and a sheriff profession, which sounds awesome. Makes me think, remember that game, APB I think it was called, where you could either be a cop or a criminal? Does that game still exist? Well, anyway, it kind of reminds me of that, and it's kind of cool when you think about it. Speaking of cops and criminals, let's move on to PvP. So, before we get into the juicy details, let's talk about how PvP is going to work in Corepunk. Corepunk is going to offer arena-style battles, 1v1s, 2v2s, and 3v3s. Corepunk is also going to offer open-world PvP. Players will have the option to turn on or off a PvP flag. So, if your PvP flag is off, you're still considered a neutral player and you can still be attacked. And of course, if your PvP flag is on, you can also be attacked. Now, this is where the honor system and karma system comes into play, so let's go over that quickly. The honor system is easy. If you kill somebody that has their PvP flag on, you'll receive honor. You can trade that honor in for some kind of reward. Pretty typical. It mimics a lot of other MMOs out there, and I can kind of dig it. I don't know exactly what these rewards are. I don't know if it's going to be gear, I don't know if it's going to be artifacts or potions, but it's going to be something. And I hope it's just not cosmetic stuff. I mean, I don't mind here and there if you have the option to buy cosmetics if you want, but I hope that's just not all it is. Alright, so let's talk about the karma system. Now, the karma system works in the opposite effect. When you kill a player that doesn't have their PvP flag on, you will receive karma. If you rack up enough karma, you will become a criminal, which prevents you from entering towns. I also read that if you kill somebody that is 3 levels lower than you, you'll become a criminal instantly. And the hard thing about being a criminal in this game is, once you become a criminal and you die, you will lose a weapon or an artifact. So depending on how strong these artifacts are or how strong your weapon is, it could potentially motivate a lot of players not to PK. All of this sounds pretty typical, right? I mean, we've seen so many similar systems in other games, but one thing I would like to really focus on is the fog of war. Now, remember in the beginning of the show when I described this game as having fog of war? Yeah, well that is the kicker for me in this game. As you can tell from some of these videos, the camera is locked to your character, so you're probably thinking, oh, well who the hell cares? But in this game, you can unlock your camera and scan the map with your mouse. So, a fog of war is going to limit what you see on your actual map. Therefore, when you're out in the world and you can't see everything around you, this is going to leave you susceptible to ganks and PvP surprises. The fog of war will give you a sense of worry and danger. You never know who's around that corner. One thing I also came across when researching open world PvP is warding. Now, my understanding is that players are going to have the option to place a ward down on the map, which reveals a small section of the map where your ward sits. So just think of the crazy possibilities of setting up wards in certain areas and you can see the enemies coming before they can see you. Now, if you ever played League of Legends, then you can appreciate somebody who places a good ward down. I mean, wards literally win you fights and even matches if used correctly. Now, I'm just assuming that these wards are going to be invisible, but even if they're not invisible, the fact that you can put a ward down and be like 50 or 60 or 70 feet away from it and see the enemy come by, even if the enemy comes by and destroys it, you at least know, hey, they're right there. You know, let's move into position and go over here. So I could see this being a really fun tactical way to enjoy open world PvP in this game. So you're probably asking yourself, so Swiper, get to the point, what's your overall impression of this game? And I gotta be honest with you, my overall impression of this game is mixed. So let me start with the positives. I think this game has a lot of potential. I think the class system, or character system, or whatever you want to call it, is pretty damn interesting. I like the fact that you can choose from a wide range of talents and artifacts to really customize that character that they kind of already built for you, but to further kind of make it your own in a sense. I also like that you can have up to 3 talent trees. It kind of reminds me of like World of Warcraft back in the day, or maybe like some of the Diablo games where you had the trees and you could go down some points and, you know, all that good stuff. And I also like the amount of artifacts that you can choose. Now, I'm assuming these artifacts are going to be like attack speed, movement speed, and all sorts of other things, but it seems like you can really adjust the way your character plays by choosing some of these things. I also love the fog of war and being able to sneak up on people and killing them, and also warding if it's going to work in the way that I think it is. Alright, it's time for some of the things I do not like in this game. So usually in an MMO, I love faction-based games. I love if there's 2 factions, if there's 3 factions, it doesn't matter. I like the fact that I can log in, pick a faction, understand their background, and say, I'm fighting for this faction, this is who I am, this is what I want, and I know my enemy, and I'm better than you. Right off the bat, I love the idea of the Horde versus Alliance, or the Vikings versus the TD, or the Vikings versus the TD versus the Arthurians. I mean, that stuff is just amazing. All the lore behind each side, something that you connect to, something you can relate to, just makes the MMO feel more alive. And having pride for your faction is awesome. It's just a really good feeling. I like having a culture devoted to the faction that makes me feel different from my enemy. Now, I'm not a fan of guild battles or player-created factions. I don't get the same feeling from a guild that could literally split up tomorrow or 10 minutes from now because they want to jump to a new game. I also prefer open world PvP to have objectives. Killing people in open world is a lot of fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love squashing people and killing people and having good fights with people, but after a while, if there's no objective to it, it gets boring and people start moving on to other things. I also prefer 3D worlds and MMORPGs. I'm not necessarily a huge top-down fan. I like top-down games for RTSs and MOBAs games, but that's about it. So who knows, maybe this game will change my mind. So the final question is, do I see myself playing this game in the future? Well, as of right now, probably not. It would be severely dependent on when this game launches and how much more information they release before it launches. Now, I'm sure we're going to get a ton more information in the next upcoming months, considering that there is a closed beta Q4 of this year. But what I'd really like to see is what they're going to do about open world PvP. Are they going to add objectives? Are there going to be certain maps for it? Are there going to be keeps we can take, towns we can keep, towers we can take? Just anything. Anything. Just give me something. I also want to know more about class abilities, talents, and artifacts. I would love to get more information on how they're going to balance everything and if they plan on balancing everything. I think we all understand that having a PvE game and a PvP game all in one game makes it incredibly hard to balance. And yes, every MMORPG has to deal with this. So it's no excuse. No game out there is going to be perfect. But how much effort are they going to put into balancing PvE and PvP? Are they going to strip your abilities away when you go into arenas? Are they going to disable things when you turn your PvP flag on? I mean, who knows? But again, this game is still early on. We're still getting a lot of information on it. So I think it's worth waiting around to seeing what else is going to be offered. But yeah, it's really going to be dependent on what kind of information we get and when it's going to be released. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for me today. Let me know what you guys thought of this video and let me know what your impression of this game is all about. I know we don't know everything about this game, but still, I'm interested to hear what others have to say regarding the information that we do have. As always, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. And if you want more videos like this one and updates regarding any new MMORPGs and of course, you know it, Camel Unchained, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys and gals for watching, and I'll talk to you all soon. Peace out.